Um, Very good. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm sorry for the delay in starting the lecture, and I hope that most people have been able to join. And we're also recording this for those who maybe haven't been able to get the link. So as part of the B.I.F.P.A Festival 22, and as part of the Alternative Art College activities during the period of strike, I'd like to welcome Joakim Stampe from Sweden. Joachim Stampe is a performance artist, has been making performances since the 1990s, as far as I'm aware. And Joachim was born in Sweden, lives in Gothenburg. And he's been making performance art works over the world, from Asia, North and South America, Europe as well. I've met him a few places over the time, over the years, different countries, Sweden and China, etc. And I know in his work that he kind of works quite politically, makes very powerful kind of visual statements. And he kind of fuses ephemeral aspects with art objects and painting with performance, using materials like earth, wind, air, fire, imagery, political imagery, works with stones, books, a whole range of materials, and very inventive. And he's kind of interested in the idea of giving away art or making artwork available to everyone free, which he feels is quite a controversial aspect of making work in society today, which goes against this idea of consumption and capitalism, really. So in 2006, Joachim Stampe, along with his brother Jonas Stampe, set up Live Action Gothenburg, which is an influential festival as well for performance art. So without any more ado, Joachim, I'd like to hand over to you, and best wishes with the talk.
Thank you. Is it okay, the sound from here?
Yep. Yes.
Great. No, but thank you for having me, and and for the introduction. So I have a lot of photos, so let's go into that. And if I swear, I will also apologize already from now if I have a bad word. So don't take offense. It's my bad English that will grasp some words that is maybe more powerful. So Aisling, you can just click forward. So I'm just going to take my about my background, where I come from. Artistically, I had two parents who was artists, and this is my mother standing beside her paintings that he was doing. And hey, yeah. And also, I also now, when I heard a little voice there, please interrupt if there's something, because I don't have a script. I don't need to go through that. So just say, hey, Joachim, wait a minute, and then you can ask a question. I have no problem with that. But this anyhow is my mother, and I come from a very strong contrast art. My parents was working with landscape, which they called bread art, that put the food on the table, and then they were making this harsh political and social work. You can click again. Next shot. You can go back to the one before. So this was my parents. They were making exhibitions for the dockers in Gothenburg. So this is me skipping school, helping them to put up their art outside the dockers house in Gothenburg. So we put them outside, and I was kind of skipping school, and then the TV was there and taking a show, and I just found this photo before coming here, and then the teacher said, hey, you said you were sick. I saw you on television when you were helping your parents, and So this is a little bit my background, and this is also maybe explaining why me and my brother felt it was so important to bring out performance in the public space, which we have done. You can click again, Aisling. That's my father, is also there, beside me on the right. So this is my father's work. He made this with a small ink pencil from his, he was working at this Swedish factory and was kind of showing how it was to work there. And he was a favorite artist from a kind of high social democratic politician. They became friends, and then they had a bust up. So after that, my parents, for almost 30 years, couldn't show art in our city because he was very powerful. So that is my artistic background. That's why I see that my art also have this kind of harsh, harder contrast in its motive or how to do it. You can click again. Okay, I say next. Next, I think. Yeah, it's another, go back one click, please. It's just a little shitty numbers, but we since we started, me and my brother in Sweden, it was a totally empty performance room. So we didn't have any older people to ask, how should we do? What can we do? So and that was good in one sense, because we could a little bit do what we wanted. It was no rules. It was no elderly people who said, no, you cannot do like that. So we on good and bad went into this room and made a little bit. So this is, we have, this year we will have the 17th edition. And we always ask the artists to do one outdoor performance in the public space in exactly the city center, where all different classes are meeting in the hub of Gothenburg. And then we want them to make one work in the white box. So that is what we ask the artists to do. Okay, next. Yeah, so this is, I think Stein Henriksen had been here. So this is how it's working in the city center. It's where all the people are out walking at lunch. I'm actually standing there. I see myself there in a green and yellow shirt, telling the ambulance to not take away the person who is sitting with his feet in cold water, not answering people. So the audience called for an ambulance. And it's not that they are coming up to us, but it's have engaging people a lot. We have had a lot of this kind of things. And he came down with the ice that he brought from the glacier and put in his car and drove down from Tromsø down to Gothenburg. And so this is something that we like to do. We like to put it in front of people. So there is no, this kind of audience we really like to work with. Okay, next. Same thing, a public space, letting them out there, and people are surprised over seeing what is going on. So my work in this case is that I'm kind of a space manager, and I'm trying to explain what they are, because we don't, there is something in Sweden, if you don't answer a question, people are getting really offended. So that is what we have volunteered for me to do. Okay, next. I'm not so much telling who is on the image of the artist. This is also the same area. And this was good also because the artist here with Alistair and Jason and Klassen, they just shut off the area. They were used to work with people, so they kind of make their zone so people didn't walk in or out. Next. And when I was going through this, I found many photos with artists, performance artists stopping traffic. And so this is also something that I'm running around and see, and the good artists, they can do that without, you know, they see when the driver or people are getting angry, so they can kind of the experience to see when are they getting angry and go a little further and then go away. So this is the hub of Gothenburg, where all the trams are crossing from the suburb, from the hard district, from the upper class area, and people are in here to go to shopping and or just hang around. Next. Stopping traffic. Some cars tried to almost run her over, Elvira, but it was kind of she was good in this reading the faces from people. So this, I think I have 10 artists who have been stopping traffic, which I myself never dare to do actually in my own city. Next. And it's also how to, I mean, we can also learn, because I think that when the first time we started our festival, we were the nutty, crazy people. Second year, they were asking, when is the crazy people coming? The third year, they were asking, when is the artist coming? So I think that when you're working in the public space, you really educate the audience or the people, and they start to see that this is something they really don't, and it's a lot of discussion. So for some years, we had volunteers who had some kind of cards that they could give to people who get very provoked or angry, or because this is our mission, that we really need to have the artists feeling safe when they're on the public space, because you can be vulnerable and you can also be very strong. This is not the role for doing it in the public space. Okay, next. Next image, Aisling. This is also this thing that, I mean, yeah, go back one, please. I normally I can do this myself, clicking, but now we have this technical, so excuse us for that. This was also a memorable place where the man and woman created small islands and was spitting on each other for 2 hours, and this was one of those actions that I really had to calm people down, who said, you are doing this, you are doing that. How can the man spit on the woman? And why the hell is she spitting on him? She can be his daughter, blah, blah, blah. So it's very interesting to hear that conversation, what is going on in people's head when they are encounter these actions that we are making in the public space. And in Sweden, we only, when I'm making the application, I just have to say that the artist cannot make fire and they cannot have sharp objects. Then you can do anything. So you can be nude as long as you have the permission. It's no problem of that. We have this drug addict, ex-drug addict, who has some kind of Christian rock band that was playing, and they complained and said, how can you let this naked woman be playing songs for God, and how can you let her out here pissing in God's direction? And then a policewoman said, but what about Eve in paradise? Wasn't she naked? And then they, okay, next image. You can hear that I'm blabbing away a little bit, yeah, let that be. This, because I heard it was going to be not only performance students, but also other art students. So I want to show how my process is going, how I'm getting inspired and how I'm working. So next, please. when I see this image of Wolf Vostel, I was intrigued immediately because I couldn't really find the text about it. I couldn't know what is he doing. So I wanted to, so I let my imagination go away, run around, and then I, for a year, wanted to work with this watch, the time measurements. So next, please. So I asked some of my friends if they can donate me a watch, and for 1 year I was making actions that always involved the watches, not for a special reason, but there was something interesting that always crossed my mind, that when we are now spending 1 minute together here on this lecture, we are not spending 1 minute together, we are spending 1 minute each, so maybe it's 10 or 15 or 20 minutes at the same time, and that is something that I like. So and from this, next please. Yeah, next again, please. Too many photos, Joachim, you're crazy. So then I'm also painting. So what I did then was that then I took, after I used the watch, wristwatch, I started to work with them in my paintings. And my paintings that I have here is made of black rubber. It's and the black rubber I got in touch with when I was making a performance, that I had this idea that I liked the idea of getting inside my art. So I wanted to, like Fontana, cut a hole and walk into my work, into my art. And the really good thing to do that with was with rubber. Next, please. So here I made a cut in this this canvas, rubber canvas, and I took my white flag and went inside the art. And then I started to really love that black matte black rubber, what it also stands for, where you're getting it, the history of rubber. And next, please. And you see the rubber close after me, so it can be an object. The material can be an object after the use. If you do this with a normal canvas, it scratch up with when my big fat body goes through it. It destroys the canvas, but not the rubber. Next, please. So then when I got the rubber, I like to work with it. I really like to stretch it, and I also like to surprise people in my work, in my actions. So here was a solid table, and then I could cut open the rubber to climb into the pre-made holes in the table. So this is something I like I like to see that when like in performance art, many times I really like when you don't know what happens next around the corner, so to speak. Next, please. So this is also what I'm painting with now. I want to make art that is having I would love to have flowers growing up and covering what I'm doing. And it's also very strong for doing that. So from that, I made this rubber performance. Now I'm also working with the paintings. So one thing lead to another and lead to another. And I'm happy now when I have kind of had my performance and my object work are crossing each other. So it's very fruitful for me. I think that sometimes it comes over into sorry, it gives me something to work those over. Next, please. I also for a long time loved the bottle, the meaning of the bottle. Not only for as a container, but also when I was a kid. At that time, we didn't have mail, so you dreamt of throwing out the bottle to send to some unknown person. And I was reading. I love to see these pirate movies when you find an old bottle with a treasure map and stuff like that. So I'm this I worked with when I was more working with my object art. I was already discovering and trying to see what the fuck is going on with bottles, why I'm interested in that. And also us men, who is, I mean, we are I don't know how it is here, but in Sweden, when you have sorrow, when you are going down, we talk to the bottle and get some comfort from alcohol and stuff. So I'm interested in all these things with it. Next, please. So, yeah. And also the bottle I discovered that you can, the object, when you fill a bottle with water, it becomes something else. It becomes small stuff, can be big and changing format, especially in the round. This is normal olive bottles that I bought. Next, please. So then after my work with the bottle, I started to use it in my performance. So this is a performance that takes, action takes like 45 minutes with pouring in wine into my eyes and taking it down and looking at people. So I think that my idea is my how to say, my bad English. My ideas are bouncing between my object art, what I'm doing in my studio, and my actions. And I really like that. I really let them bounce back and forth to do this. Totally not important information, but expensive wine doesn't hurt that much as cheap wine. Next, please. Yeah. Next, please. Next, please. I also interested in flags, and I found this just before. You can go back one more, please. Thank you for your work there, Iselin. It's good. It's not easy to do what you're doing. This was my first flag action that I made in a performance in a small city in Sweden, and I was kind of doing different actions in the water. This special water in the middle of the city has the highest tide and in the water from flood and less water. It's during 3-4 hours. It's like 1.5 meter change. So I was trying to do stuff there, and this was my first action with a flag actually, and I was doing some kind of. I was laying there in the water until I couldn't hold it up anymore. Next, please. And what I'm constantly trying to do, what I really love to see myself, and that is also what I'm doing myself, trying to do myself, is to transform an object, an everyday object, often to something else. So here I made a flag. Normally flags should be a material that can stand against the snow, wind, and water and stuff like that. But here I made a flag with Financial Times. So I put them together. I buy like 8 Financial Times, and then I can pretty fast pre-make it and do it. We were also not only making our own festival, we were also making some kind of pirate festival during the Venice preview, and you could kind of hide behind the big crazy biennale coming into Venice again, and so people are more they know that, okay, now they're here again, the artists. So then we could do stuff in the street, and it was very nice we rented a house, and artists could buy a bed, and then we go out in the street during the preview and do stuff in the street. So this was, I tried that year when I made this one. It was some kind of European Union meeting, so there were a lot of more policemen, and they stopped you, and then you just okay, and then you go, and then you come back and do it. Next, please. Yeah, here you can see more the Financial Times and the color of it. And this is also something I like, when I had other flags that I've been working with, suddenly when you make a paper flag, the sound, suddenly the performance action became also a sound piece for me. The audience maybe don't see it, but when I was holding it, the sound of that was really remarkable. I really loved that, and now I'm taking a notion, record it when you come home, Joakim. Next, please. Yeah, same thing here. And I heard, I tried to find that story, but I heard that sometime in north of Ireland there was some fighting, and there was this white flag was used, but the men didn't dare to do that. So they sent out a woman, I heard, to go with the white flag and ask for some conversation of negotiation. I can be wrong. Next, please. Here also the Swedish flag, which I've been working with a lot, especially last election. I was working that. Now it's a happy accident that I was working with smoke, which I think is also very nice and ephemeral. And I put a smoke bomb on a chair, and when I throw the Swedish flag on it, it became afterwards a very strong image when I see that how my old Sweden or kind of what is happening and what is going on, and how come we have all these nationalistic idiots that is in the election in Sweden. So yeah. Next, please. And also I like smoke because it was also some of the first way of communication. When we have distance in between people, we kind of communicate with smoke, and I like those notions. And we have it a lot in Sweden, actually, that you still have some of the big fires that could create smoke, and you put in some wet wood so that it will make more. The light is much less visible in the day than the smoke. So. And they still communicate, some of the Sápmi people in up north with this. Next, please. And I also very interested in this, that came very clear now during the COVID. We suddenly know that there's streams around us in not visual streams, that smoke can show how the air streams are moving in a room. We couldn't go up to our friends and family and hug them, and so because we know that there is streams that can make other people sick. So I was very interested in that, and it gave me a lot of ideas, this distancing. How can I work with the distance if I have to continue doing that? I was also in the risk group, so it was more important for me to find some ways of working with performances. Next, please. This was the first time I actually at Svalbard worked without any audience than the camera guy. And that was very strange for me because but it also learned me that it's so important to break what you normally do. So I had kind of leaned against an audience to get reaction and do like that. And suddenly so I asked Stein, who is running his festival up in Svalbard, how do you do? And he said that, yeah, but I'm thinking about, I'm looking at nature. I see that here is like 7 mountains. Why don't you do it for them? And it sounds, when he said it, it was totally clear. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But to do it for the nature was a new experience for me that I hadn't, that was very good for me. Next, please. Yeah. And we talked about, I heard, I was listening to Nathan and John's talk about failure. And then this, I don't think there is a failure in performance art. I think that here, for instance, I wanted to have a parade with this burning charcoal and walk around, but I didn't think that, of course, the fire burns off the nylon ropes. So I could only walk away with 1 or 2. So you could say that I didn't, my initial idea to walk with 10 or 12 of this basin didn't work out, but I still went with 2. So I think that when you continue in something that was maybe a failure or a mistake, then the failure or the mistake becomes something else. The twin sister or twin brother. Next. He said with a demanding voice. So then from this is the basin I went home to use. And they had this kind of the experience and the fire and the travel of these basins, very cheap basins from Sweden. I started to make art in them. So the object that I'm using, the material that I'm using, later on can become an object that I can work on, because I have already started some kind of communication with the material. And this 9 basin, they have, me and them, we have a common memory and a common experience of doing something together. Next. So what I've done is that I have come up with a way of printing on extremely thin paper, like silk paper or like even thinner than toilet paper. So I'm printing on them and I'm ripping photos. The ones I can get hold of, I'm asking them what I'm doing, and then I'm changing the photo. And then I glue them so they kind of the rust, and they mix and marry very well. So this is also the way of me working and trying to create objects that exist after the action. Next, please. Yeah, I just wanted to throw in this because I'm sitting and doing work with this now, but I'm a pretty good painter, if I may say so. No, but I'm a good painter, but it also becomes boring because then I need to do some part, and I lost the interest. I didn't like what I was doing. It was too. So then I found out how to work with fire, paint with fire, that I cannot control it, and that was interesting for me. So then accidents come into the art in a very special way that I like. And it was also some I read in my beginning when I went to art school, I read an essay about accident in art, and it was a Swedish writer, August Strindberg, who is a drama guy and a famous Swedish book writer. He was talking about that, and then suddenly when I started to paint with fire, I suddenly invited the accident into the work. And when I did that here, then I started also to do it in my performance actions. I left the room for accidents to take form or to take place. Next. Yeah, and this is a performance in set where I asked the audience to choose a ball, a golf ball, and hit out in the river. Next. And the golf balls had faces with G8 presidents or ministers or stuff like that. So this was in France. Of course, Sarkozy, who was the president at that time, they loved to hit him up. But also Bush, they really hated. So they hit out a lot of balls with those ministers. And I remember the first one who came was a performance artist. And I'm not a golf player, but I have checked out that you need a club that the ball don't go so long, because I didn't want to kill people on the other side of the river. So I tested for a couple of times and no problem. The ball go up and go out 5 meters. But this performance artist, he hit it so hard on the club, so the ball went like a torpedo over to the second floor on the other side, and I peed my pant very, very, very fast and say, oh my God, can I really do that? But then that was the only time it happened. But it's also showing you that you really need to test and see how it's working before you're starting to do it. Next. So then I also wanted to make, normally we performance artists, we are showing photos or videos and stuff. So, and that is no problem with that. But then I also wanted to make the artwork afterwards more special. So I also saved some of the material that was done. So I put up this, the bag with golf balls are authentic. And the book that I drilled in France was also authentic. And then they became, for me, more unique, because I think that is what I like with art. I want the art to be unique or be something more than a copy. Next. You just have to interrupt me now, Brian, when I'm going too fast or going too long.
Well, we have one question, Joachim, and it's about the reference to, you mentioned that, the artists that make accidents in their art, that you had a reference to something that you were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And the student is asking, can you have a link, or can you give them the reference to this accidents in art?
Yeah, I can do that, but I can't do it now, but I can, I can I can send a link to, I think I also have it in English, actually. It's a short essay that is really, really, really interesting how this writer, he didn't want to work with brushes. So he broke his brushes, and then he started working with a knife when he was painting, because he felt that was more, he couldn't really control that in the same way. And when he was traveling, he was going to some island in the Pacific, and he loved to sit with the villager. They drilled hole in bamboo, and then they listened to a new symphony every evening when the wind came. And I really like that way that you can do something, you can throw up something and it becomes different every time. And yeah, but I will do that, absolutely, absolutely. Next. And as you mentioned also in the beginning there, Brian, this was also something that I like, that I have a lot of art in my studio. They're just laying around, and I don't really know what to do with it. But when you see people who really like art and maybe can't afford it, I like to do work with them. So I took this. This is from France, so I was collecting this paper that homeless people are sleeping on, and then I have this. How do you say? Not charcoal, but the other pencil. What's the name of that?
Comte.
I don't know. Anyhow, I took the cheese. You know, when you're putting on the cheese on the pizza, you're ripping them on something. So I was doing that with this pencil, thick pencil, and then instead of making the drawings, I wanted to make the drawing just to caress out the outlines and doing. So I was putting effort to kind of, you know, not making a drawing, but caress out faces on different papers there. And then when you're sitting and doing your shit there, you immediately feel when somebody's interesting and they stop and they look at you. And then I like to give it away. Also that because I also like, I'm a little bit arte povera. I like this kind of, yeah, it's graphic. Yeah, rubbing graphic. Good, thank you. I see it now. Thank you, Marta. I'm into poor material, so to speak. I like this paper. I like to print on, you know, this paper that you put around gifts and shit. Next. We can just click forward here. Just go, please. I think that I'm talking too long, so I go to another part. You can continue. Yeah. This is all. Yeah, that is good. There you go. Next, please. So this is, I'm working in the public space because I heard, we saw that my old graffiti guys, they were hunted by police that had guns up in the air and say, stop or I'm shooting. And it was really hardcore in my city. And we have this kind of, the people who are cleaning tags, taking off the tags. So that's what you see on top here. On top you see the people cleaning away tags, which I don't like myself. It's not that I'm protecting that, but they're using very strong chemical that are leaving this mark, which are also ugly. So then I started to kind of recycle. So then I went over on the middle row, you see my first, how I started to make something of them. And the strange thing is that you don't see the middle one when people, they are pretty big, but people don't see it until I put white in the eyes, strangely enough. This is also information that is not important. Next, please. So this here, that's the size of it. And this is also before they are done. And also the color. I'm painting with acrylic. Because in Sweden, the graffiti is forbidden for spray cans, which they think is eternal color. They call it in the law book. So me and a lawyer, we went through the law and was kind of interpreting. So in the beginning, when the police came, because people are calling when they see somebody standing, the police come and they interrogate me and they say, you cannot do it. And I say, yes, I can. This is public space. We have some public space that are allowed for us. We are, I don't know if you have it here, but in between houses, you can find spaces that nobody wants to take care of, because it's also a cost of holding it proper. So in between houses or blocks of houses, there is areas that you can do stuff on.
And one more question there, Joachim.
Yeah.
Marta, I think it was asking, do you have permission?
No, I don't have permission. So because as a citizen, I can use this area as long as I'm not changing it or breaking it. Because the acrylic, they only last for in the beginning, when the police come, they come up and say, yeah, no, I'm working with water-based color. And that immediately ring a bell, and they think it's like aquarelle or something like that, watercolor. So, and they say, so it disappears, they say. And then I said, I don't say how long it takes. Yes, it disappears, I said. Then I haven't lied, because every time you talk with two policemen, it's an interrogation, and I'm alone. So if they say something that he said that, then I'm in the shit. So in the beginning, so they called, they have a prosecutor in the police house, and he's looking for the law of it. So, but then as long as I'm working with water-based color, in this case, it's normal acrylic, and it sits for 1 hour, 1 year to 3-4 years. It stays, and I really like that, because this is also philosophically, I really like that it's like us. I hate all these old bronze kings sitting on some big fat horse that is 500 years old. I absolutely think that we should melt down a lot of them and let younger artists create something new with that. But no. But what I'm doing now instead is that I'm calling the 911, and I say that, okay, I'm going to paint on this place here. And then the police say, why the F are you calling us? And I said, yeah, but your colleague told me to call, because you have to, if somebody's calling, we need to come there. And that costs money. So now I'm calling and say, I will stand here and work on this place, and so on. And when the police get the call, they can look at their computer, emergency computer, and they say, okay, so, and then they call me sometimes. And so I can do that. But now I'm more in my city. I'm well known, so there's not so many calling anymore. But but I think that there is an important. I'm a little bit surprised that not so many graffiti artists, spray girls and spray boys, are not using water-based color, because then it's another story, and also that you can find areas that nobody owes, because I think the law all over the world when it comes to owing stuff is very strong, protecting people who owe shit. Is that answering your question?
I think it was, yes, because they said that the answer was provided.
Great. So this is, so I'm doing that too. So I'm normally, when I have time, I stay over, and I always have a little acrylic and brushes, and I go out and do a little work here. So yeah, next please. And also to see, I also find I'm getting older, so I'm not leaving the house so far. So now I take my bike, and I'm more painting around our house. So and sometimes it's very interesting to see how cliffs are changing in wet weather, sun, and so on, to read them. And some are very easy to do. So I have learned, like we all have, in our different profession, you learn something and you can do it very easily. And this big head took me very few minutes actually to do. And but I spent 1 year in Mexico, and I was very hit by the big heads of Mexico. So I see that a lot of my public art is more heads of something than the body is the rest of the story. Yeah, I can continue. I have a lot of more photos. Click please if you see. So yeah. But it was also very interesting, because I was commissioned to go to France in like 15 villages, and they paid me a good fee to work and paint on places that they gave me. And I was, the mayor gave me a good food and good hotel. And on the other hand, when I came back to Sweden, I always have to look over my shoulder to see if the police are coming and stealing my brushes, or just holding my brushes and stuff like that. So that was a very interesting, same thing, different perspective. Next. Yeah, but I can if you have any questions or something, you probably don't, but I can continue with this until it's ending. But I really see that I am having some kind of, I really love material. I'm trying to find new materials all the time so I can start some kind of communication with them. And I, for instance, have found this silent dynamite that I want to work with. What is that? How can I use it? And can that lead into something else? So me and my wife, Shuya, we have a lot of talk about that, how she started knitting. She was a knitting leak, building and stuff. And we said, how can we, do we want to make objects? Do we want to do that? Or is it enough with just making the action? Yeah, it's enough making the action, but there is also something that you can also think that you maybe can make an object that will also stay and can start some kind of conversation with the person looking at it. So that's a lot what I'm doing when I in between work. I love to look for, to transform everyday things into something that I can use in my actions. Next. Yeah, it goes on and goes on. So yeah, we can continue, but you can also ask me a question if you want.
Well, one question you kind of started to talk about there, Joachim, was you've quite a rich vocabulary of objects and materials. You're very inventive, I think, about how you find things. Yeah. And I just wanted to ask about how you choose objects, or how do you make decisions about objects, and are there political aspects to your thinking about those?
Yeah, I think that we actually, I have an idea. I have my own little theory about material. I think that we have personal material that we many times pick up from our childhood. I had this fantastic story about a friend. His father was a vegetable salesman, and most of us think about the cucumber is something fresh that you eat in salad, but for him, it's a fucking horrible thing, because his father, when he was drunk, he beat him up with cucumbers. He loved to use the cucumber. So for him, that is hateful. He cannot eat cucumbers, So I think that we all collect those things, and her father was working in the old cork industry. So when she smelled cork, when you open a bottle of wine or something like that, then she remember her long gone father. So I think we all collecting materials like that, and I'm interested in that. So I of course think that materials are both. For me, I can only pick materials that is something for me. But I'm of course aware that there is some materials that is carrying on some symbolics or some meaning for all of us. So yeah, I'm a politically interested person. When I was a young artist, my father always said, you shouldn't force your political aspects on it. It will come out itself. If you just paint and paint and paint and work and work and work, it will show its face. Because I was making so political work that they were very boring. So I think it's, I like to talk about the world and the aspects, but not in this black and white. I like the gray. I think it should be in between those things. Is that?
Yeah, that was good. Yes, okay. Thank you, Joachim.
Yeah,
and another question really is about coming to decide to start to make events, what kind of pushed you towards thinking that, you know, it was important to kind of host artists and to make
Yeah.
work in different contexts? Because I know you were involved not only in Gothenburg but also in south of France as well, and you know, just what drove you towards thinking about making festivals and events?
Yeah, no, but my brother, he was, he's a curator. He now lives in China and stuff like that, and we work together. But he was supposed to take over totally crashed. A guy and a woman, they were have a car accident, and then he took over and had to finish this Nordic exhibition. And then he went to Helsinki, and to see, because it should be 5 or 6 Nordic artists from every country. And then suddenly it came 10 performance artists from Finland. Finland was and is a very strong performance country. And when I saw that, it was like I had my little career going. I had a gallery. I sold little things here and there. It was going pretty well, but it was also very predictable. So when I first saw performance art, and I felt, I don't know what will happen. I fall in love. I was bitten by the action virus, or maybe it's the art virus. All performance art are not so interesting. It can also be boring, but it was more this unpredictable thing. And then me and my brother said, let's see if we can do it. I mean, many times you organize something that you are missing. You are painting the paintings you want to see somehow, or the sculptures that means something for you. So that was the beginning. And of course our parents also, I mean, that is important, that they made exhibitions for the workers, and they were working class, and they were doing those in a political way, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess you know, we can maybe just ask if the audience have any questions, and if not, then we'll maybe come to an end, Joachim.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Okay, all quiet on the question front. So Tracy McCoy says, thank you, Joachim, very interesting ideas.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. No, but it's always the beginning of a sculpture when you're starting to think about, like User Boy said, you know, when you start planning it, it takes shape. And that's why it's good sometimes to speak about what I'm doing, because sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing. And that's good to put out some lines about where I am. So yeah, it's good for me too. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, Joachim, thank you very much for giving us of your time,
Yeah.
and sharing your work and your kind of history of practice, and showing us a little bit about events as well.
Okay.
And you know, again, sorry for the mix up at the start.
No.
So we're just going to finish the recording now, and I hope that the recording can be made available to more students and others after the event.